want to chat with you tonight about yoga pose, pigeon pose, and how runners can modify it to fit their bodies. Hi, thanks for tuning in. I know a lot of runners who do practice yoga. Pigeon pose is one of their very favorites. However, the version of pigeon pose we think about, like half king pigeon is, or what a lot of people think of it as, or one-legged king pigeon is kind of sometimes what it's called too. So that one can be a little intense for a lot of runners. It's a very, very big hip opener. So tonight I want to provide some different variations for that may work well in your runner body. So for people who are very tight, opening up the side hip muscles, which are the muscles that are going to be stretched in pigeon pose, can be pretty difficult. So when you're first starting out, you may even just start by pulling your leg in to your body. You could even do this while you're sitting in a chair. Even cross your leg over as you're sitting in a chair. I'll grab a chair to demonstrate that. So if you're super, super tight, even start by being cross-legged and then work on starting to stretch the hip. That is a great beginning to start opening your hip. Once you are able to open a little bit more, I would recommend doing a reclined pigeon pose where you lie on your back and make like a figure 4 with your legs. So I'll show you from a different angle. You're going to cross one ankle over the top of the thigh and then reach your arms through, pulling your leg in. And again, I'll show from a different angle here. So you can grab under the thigh, or if you're more flexible, onto the shin. And that's a great way to open the hip, the outer hip. You want to make sure you do this on both sides, holding for even up to like 30 seconds or a minute or so to really release. You could even hold it for a couple minutes if you'd like. A nice restorative or more restorative version of this pose would be to take your back foot against a wall. What that's going to do is then you don't have to pull your leg in. The wall is pressing against that back foot, which helps pull your leg in and gives you a deeper stretch. So that's a great way to relax into the pose. Another version would be to come into a standing pigeon. What I like a lot about standing pigeon is you're balancing on one foot, so that's going to help actually strengthen the stabilizing muscles in your feet and in your ankles, as well as helping to open the hips. So it's a nice twofer for that one. And forgive me that I'm being cut off. Grounding down through one foot, crossing your ankle over just like you did in the version where you're sitting, or sorry, where you're laying on your back, and then bending down, working on releasing the outer hip. And so that, again, you can practice on both sides, but that's a great balancing version of pigeon pose. And then once you work with those, work on opening your outer hips, you can come into the fuller aspect once your hips are a little bit more open. So from that, starting in downward facing dog, you sweep a leg up, sweep it forward, trying to bring your front shin parallel to, like if you're sitting on a mat, trying to bring it out a little bit. If your hips are tight, you may not be able to get quite there. If you have a yoga block, maybe placing it under or even a pillow under your hip to help you open. You can stay here to keep opening if this is enough, or you can come down to your forearms or even rest your head, your forehead in front of you, and that's one of the larger expressions of that. It's going to be a deeper stretch if you bring your shin further out so that your knee, your front knee, is closer to being a 90-degree angle. You want to make sure your back leg is nice and straight below you. So a lot of people, they have a tendency for their foot to kind of curve in. You want to keep your foot nice and straight behind you. The leg should be nice and straight. And then take a look over the shoulder that's attached to the leg that's in front to help square your hips, which again will help make sure that you're getting the best stretch that you can. If you sit too much into the hip of the leg that's being stretched or the hip that's being stretched, it's actually not giving you quite as much. So you want to make sure you have equal weight between your hips, so your hips aren't cockeyed, but so that they're nice and level.